So I just wanted to say that, both of us are really blessed to be here today. One, when I was 18, when I was younger, I was sexually abused. At age 13, turned to alcohol. Graduated from high school and moved to the big city of Phoenix, from Southern Arizona. I ended up with the wrong friends, the wrong places, and drinking a lot. And I ended up one day when I was 18 years old on West Buckeye Road, looking for a gun to kill somebody. And because they had stolen my purse, I went back to get the gun. They had stolen the gun too. And that day, God saved my life. Because if I was drunk and I was angry, I would have gotten that gun and I would have probably shot somebody. So it doesn't matter what kind of background you come from. You could be the suburbs, the rural towns, whatever. We all have problems, and there's violence and abuse everywhere. Rob came from one of the worst ghettos in Detroit, Michigan. At the age of 9, he watched his grandfather kill his stepfather. And his real father was a preacher, a very prominent preacher in Detroit. It didn't have anything to do with him. So at the age of 10, another kid stole his jacket in the middle of winter, and he ran to some of the kids in the streets who happened to be gangbangers and drug dealers, and asked for help. And they told him, "We'll help you, and we'll take you to get your jacket." And they did. But they pulled out a big gun and made him pistol whip the other kid to get his jacket back. And that was the beginning of Rob's selling drugs at age 10 and gangbanging. So we were both very fortunate to be here, and this is why we're so passionate about what we do. Because we both, no matter where we come from, we all have problems, and we have had a lot of problems. And so we're out here to help educate our youth and adults, because there's a lot of us adults that still need to be healed from those past hurts. And so our organization, we started back in 2007, and it's called The Streets Don't Love You Back. And based off of Rob's life, he wrote a book, and I edited it, and that's the name of the book. And we started an organization. And so our goals are to educate the youth about the dangers of gangs, drugs, violence, and abuse. And 2 years ago, we met Senator Miranda, and we started telling her all the things that we were doing, and we became friends. And she followed us, and this past year, I actually wrote and authored a Lifeskills intervention program for Rob and I to teach. And we've started that down in Pinal County where we live, and we're trying to bring it up to the city. So we're working with Captain Miranda even more to bring it to South Phoenix, where it's really needed. Question?
What do you need? How can we help?
We just need a place to have the classes, and we can get as many people here as we can, and we'll all come and teach it.
Can I do something very quickly?
Sure.
Excuse me. I need to have a quick church conference. Phillips Memorial, would this be something that the church would be willing to allow to meet at 1401 East Avenue Street? In the modular building? I need a motion, man. Brother Nicholas Lewis with the motion. I motion. Brother James Jennings with the second. Can I'm sorry, excuse me, Bishop, I'm sorry, I'm taking care of some business. I need all those in favor to say aye for having the Streets Don't Love You Back. The Streets Don't Love You Back Lifeskills Interventions Program to meet at Phillips Memorial. All those in favor, let me know by the side of aye. Aye. All those opposed, hearing none, you have a place in there.
That is good. Thank you so much. It's a 5-week course, and we usually do 5 weeks and then take a week off and get more people into another 5 weeks. But I've talked enough. Let me welcome my husband and partner, Rob Boyd.
First, I would just like to say I thank God for saving my life.
Hallelujah.
If it wasn't for my mother, I would have never, ever dreamed of changing my life. I took the oath as a gangbanger at 10 years old and selling drugs, and I vowed that's the way I would die, or go to penitentiary. Because I was loyal to the hood. That's what it was about back in the days. When you take that oath, you got to be for real with it. There's no turning back. But something in my mind and in my heart, I never wanted to be a failure in front of my mother. And that's what kept me going, because my daddy was a failure. He failed me and my mother. You know, my father was very successful, he was very rich, and he was a reverend. He traveled all over the world. He authored 66 books, but he never did nothing for me and mother. I'm out gangbanging, selling dope, being violent. He never come to check. When my stepfather got murdered in front of me and my mother at 9 years old, Pops never come check. So he died in 2011. He was 74 years old. I forgave my father, and I looked him in his eyes when he died. And it was just amazing. Before he died, I learned I had 12 brothers and sisters that I never even knew of a day in my life. And at the time of Pop's passing, 4 of my brothers was in the penitentiary in Detroit, where we was all raised at. 2 of my brothers doing natural life, never to see the streets again. I had one brother come home last year. Robbie did 18 years in the prison system. My other brother, Sidney, he came home 4 months after my father died in 2011. Never been a day in our life, but me and my wife flew to Detroit because I wanted to meet Sidney. And I never forget it. We was at Big Boys in Southfield, Michigan. And he said, "Hey, bro, I'm just getting out. I don't got no money. What can I get?" I said, "Get anything you want, man. We can get the whole place if you want it." I was just so excited to meet a brother that I had never even met or heard that he even existed. But a tragedy struck again in my life. We was up there September 2011. October the 3rd, my brother was murdered. After doing all that time in the penitentiary. He was murdered by a drive-by shooting that was meant for somebody else next door. So it's like, it took everything inside of me not to resort back to my life of violence and crime and gang banging, because a lot of homeboys reach out to me in the prison system and say, "What you want me to do?" And my wife talked to me profusely, and I called everything off. I told the homies, "Let it be. Let God take care of it." So meeting my wife have changed not only my mindset of life in the streets, but changed me knowing that I could be more than a gangbanger and a drug dealer and a violent person in the streets that's not being productive. So through her and believing in me, that made me know at 52 years old, I can do and be everything that I want to be. So in 2009, my book came out. It became a bestseller. 2010, I was honored in the Afro-American History Museum in my hometown, Detroit. Our program is in 150 prisons across the country, federal and state men and women. And my wife put together that program because one day I told her, I said, "You know," I said, "a lot of inmates come home, men and women, and they have to take classes, domestic violence, making decisions, or alcohol, DUI, or what have you. A lot of these people don't have no $400 or $500 to pay for these classes, and then you get violated, and you go back to penitentiary. So it's a revolving door." So my wife put together this free program. Our program don't cost one dime. The program is set inside the prison walls, and after they get through with the program, in the back of the book is a test you take. And they send the test out to the streets, and my wife prints out the certificate, and we mail it back in the prison system. I think from being in the prison system myself, there's not a lot to do behind the walls but be angry and sit in the cell 23 hours a day, and you come out 1 hour for recreation, and they cut the education off. So you have to ask yourself, the people that we send to the penitentiary, do we want them coming back out educated knowing the trade, knowing how to be productive in our society, or do we want animals coming back to the streets that's angry, no education, and sitting there with a devil's mind?